So again, my name is Gwen Sorley. My background is in education. I have a master's in education, and I started using play attention with my clients back in 1996. So for about 29 years now. So I've been using play attention with every age from about 5 years old all the way up through adulthood. So hopefully my experiences using play attention with lots of different individuals will give you a better understanding of the program and our process. Now, many of you may have been in some of our webinars in the past, and if you've attended some of our past webinars, we do cover a lot of topics that have to do with executive function. So we've had webinars on organization, emotion regulation, procrastination, perfectionism, rejection sensitivity. We work on all different areas and we discuss those areas. And in every webinar, we give lots of tips and strategies that you can use. And those tips and strategies are good. I want you to have those in your toolbox. But at some point, we need to get to the root cause and actually start developing those cognitive skills that right now are challenging, but required for strong executive function so that all of those tips and strategies that we provide make sense. So that all of the tips and strategies that teachers or counselors or coaches have provided you work for you. Let me give you an example. I was speaking to a client a couple of months ago, and she said, I can write a to-do list. Everyone keeps looking at me and says, just write a to-do list. She said, that's not my problem. I start every morning with a beautiful to-do list. The problem is, at the end of the day, I haven't finished anything on that to-do list. Can any of you really does that resonate with any of you? You can raise your hand, use the raise your hand icon if you can relate to that. So she starts every day, she writes this beautiful to-do list and yet isn't able to get things done. And many of you are saying that you can relate to that. And so why is that? Well, if we look at the root cause, right, we look at all of those areas that are challenging for people with ADHD or weak executive function. In order for a to-do list to work for you, first we have to improve memory so that you remember you have a to-do list. Then we have to work on sustained attention so that when you start number one on that list, you're able to sustain your attention until completion. We have to work on impulse control so that you're not just starting number one and impulsively jumping down to number three. We have to work on filtering distractions so that when you start one of those tasks, you're not distracted by other things in your environment. We also have to work on working memory so that you're able to read the first task and hold all of that information in your working memory on your mental sticky note in order to complete that task. So have you ever thought about that? That just that to-do list requires you to have strong working memory, the ability to start and complete and sustain your attention for a long period of time. It requires impulse control and filtering distractions and staying in the present moment. Those are all cognitive skills that we can actually put into a customized play attention program so that we can develop those skills so all those tips and strategies make sense. And some of you, it might not be for you, but for some of your children, you may think, well, we have a 504 in place, right? And they're giving my child all of these accommodations, but it just doesn't seem to be enough. And that, again, is because the accommodations are great. I was a classroom teacher at one point, and I know that accommodations are important, but we have to simultaneously teach skills because one of the most common accommodations is often longer test time, which is good in theory. However, if we're not simultaneously teaching your child how to sustain their attention for longer periods of time, how to process the information so they're able to get that information from their heads down on the paper, how to control impulsivity so they're not just rushing through the work to get it done, how to filter distractions. If we're not simultaneously developing those skills, then oftentimes longer test time just ends up being longer time to daydream. So it is critically important that We have tips and strategies, we have accommodations, but at the end of the day, we have to develop skills. And that is what we specialize in. We specialize in one thing, and that's helping you reach your goals. So I know that you're all here today because you have a goal in mind. What are your goals? Go ahead and type them in the chat box so we can share. Maybe you're an adult and you're here because that promotion seems to be eluding you, even though you are very much, you have the skills that you need for that job promotion, but it's just not getting you where you need to be. Anna says she wants to read more books, spend less time on my phone. Those are good. Those are really good goals. And you may also be a parent here. Maybe you're looking at your child who is really bright and you want your child to reach their full potential. Perhaps you're a professional and you want to help your clients develop and improve executive function. So why are you here? Randon says wants to learn to finish projects. That is a good one. So that ability to start and complete, right? A lot of my adult clients especially will say, I'm a great out of the box thinker, but I just can't implement, right? I can't execute those plans. So learning to finish projects is a great one. Bethany wants to learn how to stay on task. Moira wants to help her children develop executive function, especially emotion regulation. Excellent. That can be a challenging area. Gretchen says she has three grandchildren, all struggling with ADHD. And the more she learns, she also feels that she has been struggling with ADHD. That is a really important point because keep in mind that it is very rare we only work with one family member. Usually it's at least one parent, at least one child, if not the entire family. And like Myra's saying, that oftentimes we're working with many generations, so the grandparents, the parents, and the children. So as we're going through this program today, keep that in mind that we can customize a plan for every family member. Liz wants to declutter and organize my home. Claire says, finish writing a book that my father started 20 years ago. Claire, that is a fantastic goal. Excellent. Mark says that he's been struggling at work. Procrastination is really difficult. Excellent. Okay, great. So you all are here for a variety of reasons. But the important thing we keep in mind is that no matter what goal you wrote down, we need to remember that what we know through neuroplasticity, the brain is moldable, it's shapeable. And if we provide you with the right tools and the right challenge, you can create these new neural pathways that are required to finish writing that book, stay on task, read more books, spend less time on your phone, help your children reach their full potential. We can create those new neural pathways required for executive function. So what makes us unique and effective is what we teach and how we teach it. Play Attention is the only program available that integrates feedback technology with cognitive skill training and behavior shaping to provide you with the most comprehensive approach available. So many of you may have seen that body wave armband that is on the screen now, but I'm going to share it with you here. So this is the body wave armband. On the back, you'll notice that there are three sensors. And when I slide this armband on my arm, now those sensors are monitoring my brain activity that tells us how attentive I am. And then that information is given over to the computer where I'm allowed to control all of the cognitive exercises just with my mind, or more specifically, my attention alone. And I receive constant and immediate feedback as to whether or not I truly am focused and paying attention. And that is a really important first step in the learning process. Because right now, and I'm going to take a quick poll, let's see if I can bring up my poll here. Right now, if you look at your child or your clients or your students, oh, I don't have it on a poll here. If you look at your child or your clients or your students or maybe your partner and you say, I need you to pay attention, what is the first thing they typically say back to you? If you say, I need you to pay attention, go ahead and type in the chat box what you typically hear back. If you look at your child or your partner and say, please, I need you to pay attention. Right. Exactly. Sam, Kashi, Alexa, Lauren, Bethany. Bethany says, I can't right now. Okay. Many of you, though, Tom, Lynn, many of you are saying, see here, many of you are saying, I am paying attention. And that is true. Many of them think they are paying attention, but they just haven't developed what it takes for them. So, what we're doing with the neurotechnology is we're taking that very abstract concept and we're making it concrete and controllable, where you actually see your attention, you feel what you're doing, and you're allowed to practice not only attention, but all of those other underlying skills that, again, may be challenging but required for executive function. And this is very powerful. We've been doing this integration of feedback technology with cognitive skill training and behavior shaping for 31 years. We were actually the pioneers in neurocognitive training. It was the founder, Peter Freer, who started researching different attention training techniques that were being done back in the 1980s. And he came across the work that Dr. Pope and Dr. Paulson were doing with NASA. And what he found was that they were integrating feedback technology with their simulator, with their flight simulator training. So if the pilots or astronauts, well, let me back up. They were monitoring the brain states, meaning they were monitoring the attentive state of those pilots and astronauts. And if they were very attentive, then all of the controls in the simulator were very easy to use. Everything was automatic. But if they became stressed or anxious or distracted, everything became very sluggish. The controls were manual. So it became harder to do their job if they weren't in that peak attentive state. So they were getting that real time feedback while practicing their job skills. And our founder, Peter Freer, thought that's brilliant. If I can provide my clients or my students that feedback regarding their attention while working on specific skills that we need every day, then I have a comprehensive program. And that was the foundation of play attention. So that means that all of our cognitive exercises are brain enabled, whether you're working on motor skills or social skills or working memory, you have to be paying attention in order to activate that activity. If you're not paying attention, then the activity will stop or the character will go in the wrong direction, and you have to focus back in order to continue. And we do this because we know when we talk about improving executive function, we're talking about sparking brain change. And in order to spark brain change, it doesn't just happen. If you're sitting on the couch watching TV, you're not sparking that brain change. There are specific catalysts that need to be in place in order to spark that brain change. And we incorporate those catalysts into play attention. The first is attention. So, of course, as I mentioned earlier, in order to work on any of the cognitive exercises, you have to be paying attention. We also have challenge in the program because if you come into a learning situation and you are 100% successful, we may like that because we like being 100% successful, but you're not going to learn anything because you've already mastered it. So when you put that body wave armband on, we're only looking at your best ability to pay attention, and the bar is set there. Now, if you're able to reach or exceed that level of attention, then you're able to activate the exercise. If you maintain that level of attention for a given number of seconds, then in the background, we raise the bar just a little bit. And now you have to be that much more attentive in order to be successful. The opposite is true as well. If you are getting a little fatigued and you're not able to reach that same level, then we bring you back down to your last successful level and we gradually build you up. So we're always keeping you at that challenging yet success-based pace. Okay. And then we also have deliberate practice. So you can't just come into your play attention session and go through the motions. You have to have a goal in mind. So sometimes it's hard to set goals for ourselves. So we have Sheer Genius, our artificial intelligence that is constantly customizing your program. So when you log in, Sheer Genius will look at your previous performance and set mini goals. So let's say Bethany logs in and she's working on time on task. So she logs in, Sheer Genius says, today we're going to work on time on task. Last time you were paying attention 70% of the time. Today, let's try 72%. And if you do that, you earn a point, and the point goes into your reward system. So Sheer Genius is constantly setting that deliberate practice model to help you strive for higher levels of performance. So again, the three catalysts required to spark that brain change required for executive function. Attention, we're monitoring that constantly with that body wave armband. Challenge, so that you're always reaching little higher steps of achievement, and those deliberate practice models. So those mini goals to help you really strive for higher levels of performance. So those are all incorporated into your play attention program. Now, as I mentioned, we've been doing this integration for about 31 years now, but Tufts University School of Medicine wanted to know, is the integration that we do, what we've been talking about, the integration of feedback technology with cognitive skill training and behavior shaping, is that important? Or can we just give you a series of cognitive exercises, or what you hear a lot about as brain games or brain training apps, and get the same results? So they had three different groups of individuals, all identified as ADHD. The first group received play attention, so they had full integration. The second received just cognitive exercises, no feedback technology, and no behavior shaping. And the third was their control, so they received no intervention at all. And at the end of the study, the play attention individuals were the only individuals that showed global improvements in all areas, including academic, behavioral, social, and executive function. They were also the only individuals that if they started the study and they were on medication, because some of them were on, some of them were not, but if they were on medication and in the play attention group, those individuals had an average decrease in their medication, where the other two groups had an average increase. And that goes back to skill building. If we can help you develop the skills that you are challenged with, then there may be less of a necessity to mask symptoms. So you can use play attention whether you're on medication, not on medication. It really doesn't matter. Medication does work for many people by controlling symptoms. The difficulty is that medication does not teach any skills and it does not change behaviors. So we don't want to medicate and fail to educate. We want to use this time to help you develop skills. And that's what play attention can do. It can teach the skills that medication alone cannot teach. Okay, Robin asks, before we go further, she wants to know how the armband is reading the brain activity. So let's first talk about what attention is, okay? Right now, you have billions of neurons firing in your brain at different times. But when all of those neurons fire in synchrony, when they all fire at one time, you give off a very specific electromagnetic signal. And that signal is what we know of as attention. And that's what that body wave armband is listening for. It's listening for that moment where you give off that very specific signal, and then it's communicating that information via Bluetooth. So now you may be very used to seeing something on the head, right? When people talk about monitoring brain activity, you see something on the head. And Robin, that's probably why you're asking, how do we do that from the body? And the reason everyone has something on the head is because that signal is so small. That signal, that electromagnetic signal that you emit is so small. It's so minute that it's easiest to monitor if you're close to the source, which of course is the head. The difficulty with that is no one wants to put something on the head. It's uncomfortable, it's invasive. A lot of our clients have challenges with sensory input. So it's really important for us to improve that technology, to advance that technology. And that's what we've done. So in order to get that same signal through the body, we have to amplify that signal, and then we filter out heart rate, muscle, blood flow, all that noise that occurs from the head to wherever you've placed it on the arm. Because keep in mind, just because you move further from the source, that signal doesn't disappear. It just gets harder to tune into. And we've been able to crack that code and make the training much easier to use and much more comfortable for you, the client. Okay, good question, Robin. All right. So let's go ahead and I want to actually share one of the exercises with you so that you can get an understanding of the feedback. But before we do that, I want to actually do one of those polls I was talking about earlier. So just to make certain we're all on the same page, everyone respond. You should see your poll on the screen right now. What does that body wave armband monitor? Is it A, eye movement, B, breathing, C, brain activity, or D, FM radio? Okay. Is it eye movement, breathing, brain activity, or FM radio? If you can't see the poll for some reason, you can just type in your answer there. All right, I'm going to close the poll in 3, 2, 1. Great. All right, 88% of you replied with the correct answer, which is brain activity. Okay, not eye movement, not breathing, certainly not FM radio. Someone did answer with that, but I'm assuming you were kidding. So that is important to keep in mind. So it is brain activity. It is not breathing. It is not eye movement because attention originates in the brain. So in order to give you real-time feedback regarding your attentive state, we have to be monitoring brain activity. Your breathing will definitely help you focus. You know, there are a lot of great breathing exercises that help you focus, but that's not where your attention originates. It originates in the brain. So just be very clear that we are monitoring brain activity indicative of attention. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at how this works. I'm going to share my other screen here so that you'll be able to see. And just know that during this time when I'm sharing my play attention screen here, I can't see your questions, but keep asking your questions or typing in your comments because I will go back to those once I'm done sharing this exercise. So right now I'm going to share with you attention stamina. But as you can tell, there are a lot of different other cognitive skills that we can address within your program. As you're reading through those different cognitive exercises, keep in mind, you will not need all of them. That's where the customization comes in. And you will be assigned a focus coach, one of our coaches here, to assist you every step of the way to pinpoint those different cognitive exercises that are most important for you or your clients or your children or your partner. Okay, so we'll have all of these different cognitive exercises. What is important to remember? They're all mind and brain enabled, right? I have to be paying attention in order to activate any of these exercises. So let's go ahead and look at attention stamina. This is teaching me how to direct and sustain my attention at will to low stimuli activity, much like paying attention to the teacher in the classroom or my colleagues in the workplace. Now I can choose from different characters, but one is this dolphin. So I'm going to select the dolphin and then I'm going to click play. Now, the very first thing you're going to see is a transition screen. So in a moment, you're going to see your game is loading, and that is just helping me transition from our conversation into the actual exercise itself. Now, remember, I still have that body wave armband on that's monitoring my brain activity. Once we get past this game is loading screen, you're going to see my character at the top of the screen. I'm going to turn my volume down just a little bit here. So my character is at the top of the screen and my attention meter is white because I'm not paying attention. I'm talking to you. So I'm distracted. So now I'm going to stop our conversation. I'm going to pay attention to my task. Once I'm paying attention, I'm going to be able to swim him all the way down to the bottom of the ocean, again, just with my attention alone. Okay, so now I'm going to focus in, stop our conversation. as low as he goes. Now, notice what happens as soon as I get off task. Immediately, he starts floating up. And now I know I'm not as attentive. And distraction can be a variety of things. It could be daydreaming, it could be anxiety, it could be someone walking into the room and I can't filter that noise. Whatever it may be, I get that immediate feedback. Now I know I have to control that behavior, control that daydreaming, focus in. Right? So you see, it's kind of like a piece of exercise equipment for the brain. We're working areas that right now are weak. And by providing you with that constant and immediate feedback regarding your attention, you're then able to develop the self-regulation and self-monitoring you need in order to recognize when you're paying attention, recognize when you're not paying attention, and more importantly, when you're not paying attention, you'll know how to correct it because you've actually had an opportunity to practice it. So we're no longer saying, get back on track, get back on track, pay attention. We're providing you an experience and you can practice. Now, one thing you may have noticed are graphics. That's about as exciting as they get. All of our graphics are very simple. They're very low stimuli. And probably many of you know why. The reason we do this is because we know if we give you something high stimuli or high interest, you can pay attention to that. Your children can pay attention to that. You can hyper focus when it's that high stimuli or high interest. We don't need to teach that. We don't need to teach how to pay attention to high stimuli, high interest. What we need to teach is what's more challenging, and that's how to pay attention to low stimuli, much like the classroom teacher or the workplace, where we have to be able to attend to much lower stimuli. So that's why everything's presented very simply, so that you can learn how to pay attention to that low stimuli at will. Now, all of my data is stored for me. So you see here, I worked for 1 minute and 43 seconds. Of that time, I was actually paying attention 29% of the time. And my recovery speed, which is from the time I lost my attention to the time I regained it, was right around 14, almost 15 seconds. So now Sheer Genius, the artificial intelligence, is going to take all of that information and not only use that information to document progress, but also use that information to set those mini goals we talked about, that deliberate practice model. So the next time I log in, Sheer Genius will say, yesterday you completed this with 29% attention. Today, let's try 31%. And if you do that, you're in a point. The point goes into your reward system. And then Sheer Genius is also tracking certain benchmarks. So there are certain benchmarks I'm going to have to reach before moving up from bronze to silver to gold. And when I move up, we're going to tie in more processes required for executive function, such as processing speed, impulse control, distractors, and mental flexibility. So that means there are times where I'm going to have to respond using the mouse or the keyboard to certain stimuli, but I am still driving everything with my attention. Okay? All right. So again, that is our very first exercise, and you will have the opportunity to take our pre-assessment and actually evaluate all of the different exercises that are most appropriate for you. Now, keep your questions coming. I'm going to go back to our other screen, and then I'll be able to see and address your questions. Okay. Okay, so Robin, that probably answered your question. She said, are all exercises only from brain to device, no inputs from device to brain? So that is correct. So it is just one way. Your brain activity is provided over to that Bluetooth. So it's one way. There's nothing emitted out of that armband. That is correct. Andrea, can the activity be done without sound? Those bubbles might be hard for my children with sensory stuff. Andrea, that is a really important question. Yes, you can turn the sound off, and sometimes even in the early sessions, I'll have them put on headphones so that we're blocking out some of the environmental distractions. But keep in mind, you want to set a goal to gradually start introducing the sounds and some more stimuli so that they're able to learn how to filter. That's a really important experience here because it's hard to teach how to filter those distractions or how to filter all of that sensory input in the heat of the moment, right? But if you can provide your clients a time where they can actually practice that ability, that's huge. So if you have, I'm sorry, you said your child, not your clients. If your child has a hard time with that sensory input, so we can eliminate that, just turn off the sound or turn it way down. But then once we get into a couple of months into the training, let's talk to your focus coach and see if we can gradually increase the sound, gradually introduce more sensory experiences so that they can learn how to filter. Okay, does that make sense? Let me know if you have more questions on that, but really important question. So again, as you saw, there were a lot of different cognitive skills that we can introduce. And when we set up your profile, we're pinpointing those underlying skills that are challenging with the end goal to improve cognitive control in all of these individual areas. But the end goal is to strengthen executive function. And I know many of you here today are very familiar with that term, executive function. But for those of you who are not as familiar, I'm just going to give a brief overview of what executive function is and why it's so important. So you can think of executive function as kind of like the CEO of your brain. It is what allows you to control your attention, your behaviors, your emotions. It allows you to plan and prioritize, organize, avoid procrastination, and remain on task. So it is a set of mental processes we use every day to get things done. Now, no one is born with strong executive function, but we all have the potential to develop it. And that development starts right after birth and continues through our mid to late 20s. Unfortunately, we expect everyone to have strong executive function by the time they hit middle school. And that doesn't always necessarily happen. There are a lot of factors that can inhibit that development, one of which is ADHD. So it is important that we keep in mind what we talked about earlier. We can step back. What we know through neuroplasticity, the brain is moldable, it's shapeable. If we provide you the right challenge and the right feedback, you can create these new neural pathways required for strong executive function. And if you look at all those mental processes, you might be thinking, but I didn't see organization or emotion regulation in the main menu screen. And that is because all of those cognitive skills are the foundational skills for these mental processes. So let's just look at emotion regulation. How many of you here, just use that raise your hand icon as a quick poll. How many of you are interested in helping yourself or your child or your clients develop emotion regulation? That's one process, one mental process within executive function. Okay, many of you are saying that you would like to work in that area of emotion regulation. So let's talk about that. I'm sure that you've talked to your child or your partner or clients about different strategies they can use in order to control emotions. You may have a conversation, or you yourself may get done with a certain experience and think, oh, I feel so bad. I shouldn't have had that big outburst. And I should have responded this way. So you know after the fact, or your child knows after the fact and can have that conversation with you. But in the heat of the moment, you weren't able to put on those mental brakes and actually control those emotions. So in order to develop emotion regulation, first you have to be able to pay attention to the entire situation. So we need to work on attention stamina. You need to be able to process all of the information. That's processing speed. You need to control your impulsive nature so that you're not just impulsively responding with the first emotion that comes to mind. So impulse control. We have to work on developing working memory so that you're able to evaluate the best response based on prior experiences. Working memory. We also have to work on being present, being in the moment, staying present and not allowing that internal dialogue to derail you. That's mindfulness. So all of those individual cognitive skills we can put into your program. So every time you do a play attention session, you're not only developing all of the cognitive areas, but you're strengthening overall executive function. Um, Abusida, I hope I pronounced that correctly. So yes, you can also use this with individuals with autism because a lot of the different cognitive skills that we address within play attention are also challenging for those with autism. And many individuals are diagnosed with comorbidity. So they have ADHD and autism. So no matter what the cause, I know I talk about ADHD a lot, but a lot of our clients have post-traumatic stress syndrome. They have a traumatic brain injury. They have autism. They do have ADHD. They might have early dementia or early onset Alzheimer's. They may have lost some of these abilities or some of these processes due to stroke. So there are a variety of reasons that you may be struggling with executive function. Your goal right now is to look at what we address. If we address the cognitive skills that you would like to help improve, then this can be a very effective training process. Okay, I hope that answers your question. All right. Now, everyone's program will include our core foundational skills, including attention stamina, visual tracking. So attention stamina, we talked about that for being able to direct and sustain attention to low stimuli. Visual tracking, that I recommend for any individuals that maybe even the teacher has said to you, she does great when I stand right next to her, but as soon as I walk away, she's out the window and out the door, and then she has that diffused attention. So we work on staying focused and visually tracking. Task completion, this is one of our most popular, being able to start a task right away, keep your attention just on that one task until completion, closed-end tasking. So if you're an adult who thinks, I've been busy all day long, but I have finished nothing, that's for you. Or if you have a child, 15 minutes of homework is taking 2 or 3 hours, task completion is what we're going to work on. Short-term memory, remembering dates, names, facts. We work on filtering distractions, both auditory and visual, and then transfer and generalization in our academic bridge program. So you see here, my client is wearing the body wave armband, but you see he's working on one of his courses that he's taking for university. And this is where we're asking him to take all of the skills he's learned within play attention and apply them. So you could be writing a report, doing some studying, your child might be doing some math homework or some reading, and you have that body wave armband on. As long as you're paying attention to your reading or your report, you're going to hear from the computer, good, great. If you start to drift, you'll hear focus, and then you're not in that state you need to be in. So this is where we're giving you that real-time feedback while actually doing your real work so that you're learning how to transfer and generalize that skill and self-regulate while doing your office work or your homework. We also have several masterclass modules that you can pick and choose from and add into your program at any time. You may have seen we're running a Valentine's Day special right now, and you're going to receive 4 of these for free. So that means instead of starting your program with those 6 modules, it will come standard with 10. But the different masterclass modules that you can incorporate are working memory. I recommend that for everyone, and that's part of our Valentine's Day bundle. That's your ability to take in information, hold that information in order to complete a task. Auditory processing, that's the ability to follow through with multiple step verbal instructions. Hand-eye coordination is more about small motor control, so handwriting, keyboarding. Social skills, if you have any difficulties with picking up social cues and responding appropriately. Spatial memory, if you are constantly misplacing things, you never know where your keys are or your wallet or your phone, your child's constantly losing his shoes or backpack, that's a good one. Mental math for first grade and second grade addition and subtraction. Mindfulness, this is one of my favorites. And this will teach you how to stay in the present moment and calm the internal dialogue. So if you have ADHD and anxiety, this is a great one because we hear so much about how mindfulness helps with the symptoms of ADHD, which is true. However, it's really challenging for many people, all of us. It's difficult to be in the present moment, especially when you have that running mind. So, what we do is we give you a visual representation, and you'll see that lotus flower in the middle of the screen. Once you have your mind in the present moment, you're able to start opening a petal on the flower. If you start thinking, when's my next appointment? Who do I have to call? What do I have to do after work? That petal's going to start to close because you're no longer in the present moment. And then you know you have to bring yourself back in order to continue. So we're really enhancing that mindfulness practice. And then motor skills, that's a good one if you have more bumps, bruises, accidents than your peers. It helps with that mind-body coordination. So I just wanted to review those so you can get a really good idea of how comprehensive your program can be. And if you looked at some of those exercises and you thought, yes, that's for me, and you were kind of going through the checklist, great. But if you want a more in-depth look, we do have a couple of assessments available. One is our play attention pre-assessment. Some of you may have already taken this online. It's just it says ADHD test, and we ask you a variety of questions. And that really will give you a report afterwards that will tell you, based on your responses, what we recommend for your customized plan or your child's customized plan. If you haven't done that ADHD test yet and you want me to send that link to you, go ahead and type in test, and I'll make certain that you get the link for that so you can kind of get an overview of what your customized plan would look like. Just type in test. Now, if you want a more in-depth look at the different challenges that you might be experiencing, or your child or your clients, we also have two other assessments that are available. They are an additional cost. The focus and the brief assessments, they're $50 a piece. And if you do those, we need about a 40-minute block of time afterwards to review the results. Focus is a norm reference test of attentional control. It is computer-based. It takes about 20 minutes, and at the end of the 20 minutes, we receive a full report that tells us how you performed compared to the performance of your peers. We look at 4 different constructs of attention, which is consistency, performance, impulse control, and your ability to deal with distractors, both auditory and visual. So that's a more objective assessment. It's based on data, your responses to certain stimuli. We also have the brief available, which is a behavior rating inventory of executive function. And that is a series of questions that gives us a snapshot of your executive function on a day-to-day basis. So those are a little bit more in-depth, and they're norm referenced. So many of you said you wanted the ADHD test. Just keep in mind that is our ADHD assessment where we pinpoint the different cognitive skills that would be most important for you that we would recommend for your program. But if you wanted to look at the focus or brief assessment for a more in-depth look, type in focus and we'll reach out to you with a little bit more information on that. If you do the focus assessment and the brief assessment, I recommend, and this is what I like to do with my clients, we do it before we start play attention to help us customize the plan. After about 20 hours of work within play attention, that's kind of our midway point, and then again at 40 hours. So that's when we're looking at graduating the program. So has everything transferred and generalized? So the focus is norm reference test of attentional control. The brief is that behavior rating inventory of executive function. So just let me know the types of assessment you're interested in, and we'll follow up to help you with that. Okay. Now, your program will include everything you need to run your sessions. So you'll have your body wave armband. You'll have your neurocognitive training program with those customized programs. Behavior shaping, we didn't even touch on this, but the behavior shaping will be turned on for any of you who have a lot of self-distracting behaviors like fidgeting, nail biting, chewing on your shirt, skin picking. If you have those behaviors or your child has those behaviors, the behavior shaping module is so powerful because it will give you a one-to-one correlation on how certain behaviors affect your attention. So we can use that to help you start to learn how to control those behaviors not conducive to good attention. You'll have that unlimited support with your personal focus coach. You'll have about a 90-minute live training and onboarding session just to make sure you're real comfortable with everything before you get started. And you own the program, so your support is always there. Now, one of you asked this question earlier, and I knew we were going to get to it. Colleen, this is what you asked earlier. How much time do you want us to work every week? So we do recommend that everyone works at least an hour per week, and that hour could be broken up. So most of my adult clients and most of my families that I work with, they tend to do 4 15-minute sessions. If you're in a professional setting, most of our professionals work with clients to 30-minute sessions. So you can really vary that depending on what you need. And you'll start to see good results after about 6 weeks of consistent training. You'll notice that you are more focused. You gave your child 3 instructions and they were able to follow through without being redirected or reminded. You'll notice that you feel more productive at the end of the day. You're finishing more things. Your memory is better. So you're going to start noticing these small steps of improvement. But the research shows in order to gain permanency, in order for us to know that not only will you have these skills now, but you'll have them throughout your lifetime, because that's the goal, right? We want to have lifelong changes. And when you're creating those new neural pathways, that's what you're working towards, to create those lifelong skills. That usually takes about 40 hours. So if you're working an hour per week, I would plan on about 10 months of consistent training. But everyone learns differently. And so remember, it's okay if it takes you longer. Around that 40-hour mark, you're going to meet with your focus coach. We're going to make certain you're at all the advanced skill options, make certain everything transferred and generalized. If you did a pre-assessment, we'll do another assessment here to make certain you're applying your skills back into your everyday life. If everything looks good, then we'll graduate from the program. If it looks like there's more work to be done, we simply customize the plan, we keep going. So again, that goes back to you own the program. Your support is always there. So whether it takes you 10 months or 16 months, it doesn't matter. And even once you graduate, if you want to continue using it for peak performance training, then you can do that. Okay. I have some colleagues here who will use it in the beginning of the day if they have a big presentation. I have one colleague who uses it every day before he goes out on the tennis court. So you can always use it in that capacity. All right. Now, I mentioned a lot about sheer genius, and sheer genius is going to make a lot of the decisions for you. And that is critical when you're doing your session. So let's say that Colleen decides to do 4 15-minute sessions. When she logs in, Sheer Genius is going to give her 4 different exercises for that day based on previous performance. So she logs in, I'm sorry, 3 different exercises if it's a 15-minute session. So she logs in and Sheer Genius will say, okay, today we're going to work on attention stamina, time on task, and short-term memory. So she'll log in, she'll see her 3 exercises, she'll have a mini goal for each exercise. So she logs in, she does her 3 exercises, she logs out, there's a journal, time for reflection, what I'm proud of, what I learned, and then she's done. The next day, she logs in, 3 new exercises, 3 new goals. She logs out, journal, done. That's the process you'll get into. So that consistency is real important. And remember, some of you are thinking, I don't know when I'll do my sessions. How will I determine that? That's what your focus coach is there for. Your focus coach is going to help you determine what's going to work for you. And think about your focus coach as becoming kind of like your accountability buddy. So after you finish that onboarding, your focus coach is going to say, okay, Robin, how am I going to keep you on track? Is it a text message 3 days a week? Is it a phone call? Is it a Zoom meeting for 15 minutes once a week until you develop that consistent habit? So that coach is there to help you stay on track and guide you through the process. And then all of your data is tracked for you. So at any time, you can go in and look at your data. And if you want more information or have your coach kind of analyze your progress so far, that's what that person is there for as well. Now, remember, in order to reach your goals, you all had goals that you were typing in earlier. You want to be better at completing tasks. You want to finish writing that book that your dad once started 20 years ago. You want to read more, be on your phone or your social media less. You want to have a stronger memory. You want to help your child actually excel at school and really show what they know. So you have all of these outcomes, these goals that you're striving for, and you can reach your goals. What we recommend is stay very consistent, follow that protocol, keep in touch with your coach in order to allow us to help you reach those goals. So now there are a couple of different models available. We have the home system and the professional system. And the home system and professional system both come with what we talked about earlier. So you'll have your body wave technology, your neurocognitive training plan. Remember, typically it comes with 6 different exercises, but with your Valentine's special, you're going to get 10 to start. You can add the others at any time. They're usually about $50 a piece. And you'll have that unlimited support with your focus coach. The only difference between the home system and the professional system is in the user license. So the home system comes with a user license for 2 people. That means at any one time, you can have 2 family members enrolled in your program. Now, if you have more family members you want to enroll, no problem. An additional user license is just $50 as well. So you can enroll more than 2. You'll just upgrade that user license. The professional version has an unlimited user license. So if you're thinking, I have 25 clients I could enroll tomorrow, you can enroll all 25, and there's never any relicensing fee. That is unlimited, 25 for as long as you're using the program. The home system is a one-time fee, which is $17.95. The professional system is a one-time fee, which is $24.95. If you have an HSA or an FSA, those typically do cover. We also offer payment plans through a company called Affirm, and some of our clients have used PayPal over time. But remember, that's a one-time fee for your program. You own the program, your support is unlimited. So there are no monthly fees, there are no relicensing fees involved. That is a one-time fee to help you develop all of these cognitive skills that you need in order to reach your goals and sustain those skills for a lifetime. So I mentioned this, I touched on this a little bit earlier, but we are running that Valentine's special. So in addition to those 6 foundational skills, you'll also have auditory processing, mindfulness, working memory, and social skills added to your program at no additional cost. And if you wanted more information about those modules, you'll get a lot of that information from that ADHD test. Remember, when you take that online, and then you'll get an email that says, this is what we recommend for your customized plan. And then your focus coach is going to take that information to set up your profile for you. So everything's in place before your initial onboarding. So it's really helpful, not only for you, but for us to really streamline the process for you. And if you want a focus or brief assessment, we'll do that prior to setting up your profile as well, because those assessments just simply help us really customize even a little bit further. Thank you so much, everyone. I hope you have a great day, and we look forward to working with all of you very soon. Take care.